Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. So let's talk about the Scroll Seal Shard revamp. This is coming in update 50. So, a little bit of a DDO history lesson for those of you who weren't around a long time ago. So, Scroll Seal Shard, while it's very much outdated right now, currently in game, what it was back in the day was it was a core component of in-game when cap was 20. So when cap was 20, there was this huge pool of items, and what you could do is you could farm a scroll, a seal, and a shard from these various quests. So for example, the antique great axe from the House P Carnival chain. You could go in that content. You could get the scroll from that content, the seal from that content, and the shard from that content. And once you did all that, and these dropped in different places, you could take all these and craft them into an epic antique great axe. And there was a huge pool of items that you could epify. And it was a core component of the end game. That's what you would do at level 20 at cap, is kind of make these epic items. And the vast majority of these items have, over time, become very outdated and very weak by today's standards. And what they're doing is going back and giving you reasons to use these items again and ways to upgrade them. A lot of the seals, a lot of the shards and base items, I guess, for certain things specifically, were very, very hard to find. Specifically, I would say the most cryptic ones would be the ones in the raids, like the Demon Queen raid, when you're trying to get like your epic Ring of Spell Storing, or say you want to get your epic Sword of Shadow from the Von 6 raid. Those were probably the most cryptic to get. Things like the Shard of the Sword of Shadow, very low drop rates. So this is not only going to make all these epic items useful again, but it's going to make a lot of these more cryptic ones much more obtainable. So that's awesome. So let's go ahead and just go through this post and talk about what specifically they're doing in this revamp. So this is what Kokuma Jobo, associate producer of DDO, had to say. Update 50 includes the complete refactor of Scroll Seal Shard crafting system, which is usually abbreviated to SSS. There's a lot to get into, so let's dive right into it. All of the heroic items from the Shard Seal Scroll item packs will be revamped as part of this pass. This includes the following adventure packs: Web of Chaos, Vault of Night, Chronoscope, Sands of Menectarum, House P Carnival Chain, Red Fen, Sentinel of Stormreach. All of our epic items from the above packs will also be revamped to bring them up to appropriate scaling values. Okay, so great. They're not only going to hit all of the items, but they're going to scale them to make them, they're going to bring them up to make them more viable, essentially. And they're adding a level 30, as he continues here. Finally, all the above packs will get a level 30 legendary version that will be competitive for endgame play. So there's going to be heroic versions of these items, there's going to be epic versions of these items, and there will be now a new legendary version of these items. And there will be a process that you can actually upgrade items. So you won't have to anymore get a specific shard or a specific seal. You know, that mechanic added a lot of variance, because when you're talking about you have to get one item with a very, very, very low drop rate, there's just a huge amount of variance. I mean, specifically when we're talking about things like the Sword of Shadow shard, for instance, you could pull that in your first pull, or you could be like me, someone who went years and years and years trying to pull that item, running that raid regularly, and never got it, and basically just gave up eventually. I mean, there's people who have been running Von 6 for that shard for years before getting their item. I mean, there's people who never got that shard. And I think some with the base item. The base item is pretty rare as well. But I guess they've introduced other ways to get that through giveaways and such. But let's continue on. So what's changing with the upgrade flow? Heroic items will continue to drop as is. Epic items are obtained in the altar of epic rituals with the following recipe: heroic item plus 50 pack ingredients. So what you can do is you can upgrade your heroic item to an epic version by getting heroic item plus 50 pack ingredients. And then you can get the legendary. We'll talk about the pack ingredients here in a second. Legendary items are obtained in a new altar of legendary rituals with the following recipe: epic item plus 100 pack ingredients plus 5-star fragments. And an additional 250 threads of fate is needed if the item is from a raid. Okay, so pack ingredients. So just to be clear, like the epic ones, the epic versions of the item and the legendary versions of the items, they don't drop in the chest. You can only get the heroic version, which is the way it's always been. The epic version of these items has never dropped in chests. You've always had to upgrade that in the past by getting a scroll, seal, and a shard. But now you're going to be able to upgrade the heroic versions of all this loot with in two tiers basically. The epic tier you're going to get by getting the item plus 50 pack ingredients and plus 50 greater tokens of the 12 if the item is from a raid. And then once you have that, you can upgrade that into a legendary version with the epic upgraded item plus 100 pack ingredients plus 5 star fragments plus an additional 250 threads of fate if the item's from a raid. Okay, so that may seem a little complicated at first when you read it, but it's not. It's actually quite straightforward. It's similar to, say, how a lot of items through even events like Maybar are upgraded. So you have a base kind of version of it, and you can upgrade it and then upgrade it again and again to make it better and better. So there's, for example, like the Cloak of Night, there's a level 24, there's a level 20 version, a level 24 version, and a level 28 version. You can keep kind of upgrading to create better and better versions with a better version of the item, but a higher minimum level. So that's basically how it's going to work here. So let's talk about the ingredients. So they introduced some new ingredients here. So we're not using the scroll, seals, and shards anymore. Now we're using, for the to make the item epic, you need pack ingredients. So what are pack ingredients? Well, pack ingredients will drop wherever seals or shards would drop in a moderate amount. It will likely take 2 to 3 runs of a quest to get enough of the material for one item. These ingredients are pack specific. For example, a pack ingredient for the chronoscope would be a broken sliver of time, etc. You'll collect quite a bit of these as they're guaranteed drop and will also be contained elsewhere as specified below. Okay, so this works similar to how it worked in the past in that these ingredients will still be exclusive to those packs. So for example, the Antique Great Axe, if you want to make the Epic Antique Great Axe, that's an item that is exclusive to the House P chain. So the way it worked before is you had to get the seal, scroll, and shard from that chain. Now you have to get the pack ingredients that will only drop in that chain. However, from what they're saying here, it's going to be a lot easier to get these items if based on what they're saying here. For example, they're saying it take 2 to 3 runs of a quest to get enough material for one item. So that's nothing. I mean, that's almost nothing. I mean, I remember back in the day when I was grinding certain items like the Epic Antique Great Axe, for example, I think I had to run the snitch like 60 times or something like that, 40 to 60 times before I ended up getting the last, I think it was the shard I needed that dropped from that item. It could have been the seal, I don't remember, but one of those. And here they're saying it's only 2 to 3 runs. So what you really need to get is the heroic item. That's the main thing you want to drop. But those tend to not be very difficult to get. So really, it's going to be quite easy to get an epic version. So let's now move on to upgrading from the epic version to the legendary version, which is the new version. So the epic versions are going to be easy to get. So for those of you who have been waiting forever to get your epic Sword of Shadow or to get your epic Ring of Stealth Storing, these items are going to be much, much easier to get. Okay, star fragments. So star fragments is the ingredient that you're going to use to turn the item from epic to legendary. So this is what the associate producer here had to say. Star fragments will be an uncommon drop from legendary Saltmarsh to start and will become more available later on, just like how empty soul vessels will be joining the list of Threads of Fate purchasable items as of update 50. Our goal is that it will not be hard to find enough of these to upgrade your items. Okay, so couple things here. One is they're a lot less specific about how much they'll drop. So with the epic version, they said 2 to 3 runs. They were pretty specific, but here they're saying they're being much more vague. They're saying our goal is that it will not be hard enough to find enough of these items to upgrade your items. But that's very vague. Who knows what that means? What is their idea of it will not be hard to find enough? We don't know. That's very vague. It could be maybe that could be 5 runs. That could be 20 runs. They didn't mention it being a guaranteed drop or anything like that, like they did the pack ingredients. So yeah, we really don't know, because I have no idea what they mean when they say it will not be hard to find enough of these to upgrade your items. I don't know. What is their definition of that? Who knows? So it's very vague. We don't know yet how difficult it will be to get this. We also know for now it will be exclusive to Saltmarsh, so the mini expansion. So you can only get legendary versions by running the Saltmarsh pack, which this is just for now. So it sounds like for now it will be exclusive to Saltmarsh, and then later on they'll introduce it in different ways. So yeah, that kind of sucks. So that means you're gonna have to buy Saltmarsh if you want some legendary items. So there's a bit of an incentive there for you to buy it. Kind of sucks that it's exclusive if you don't plan to buy it. But yeah, we'll see how that goes though. We'll see if they do end up introducing those anywhere, but anywhere else going forward. But for now, it sounds like, yeah, those will be exclusive. So let's continue on. But yeah, so basically, once you get your epic item, you need to run Salt Marsh and get some of these star fragments, and then you make a legendary version. Okay. Then they have kind of a Q&A section. What about our existing materials? You will be able to crunch unused seal scrolls and shards down into some amount of pack ingredients. So that makes it even easier to get an epic item. So a lot of us have a bazillion scrolls and seals and shards of stuff we don't need because we've run these quests, hundreds of times over the years. So you're probably going to be, I mean, from what I wonder what the conversion rate's going to be, but it sounds very, very easy to craft epic items. So that's good. So even though it might be a little difficult to get the legendary ones, depending on what the drop rate is for those, and the fact that you have to have Salt Marsh, at least the epic ones, they're being very forgiving with the epic ones. Very, very forgiving. All right, so next question. Why not just let the epic items drop as is? Since the SSS is a crafting system, we don't want to invalidate previous progress. If someone has spent 10 years grinding the Essos, we don't want to tell that person to keep farming for it. We want to actually let them get that item as soon as the update drops. They've already done the time. Okay, so basically, this person, there's proposing an answer to that question. Why not just let the epic items drop? Personally, I don't think it's necessary based on what they're telling us here. It's going to be so easy to upgrade these items that it seems kind of, why even have them drop it? Just, you'll be able to easily upgrade all these things. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. What are you going to do about the ESOs? So this is interesting. They said nothing. I actually don't think that this item needs changing. If people can find it and get it, use it, that's great. I'm generally happy to make something that cool more accessible. So we'll talk more about that in just a second. Are you worried that by making those items which have been so long, been so rare, so much easier to obtain, that you'll be invalidating years of grinding already spent? That's something only the players can really answer for. So that's it's one of the results of this is it's going to make certain items less special. So if you're one of these people who has your epic ring of spell storing, or your epic sword of shadow, yeah, you're not. There's going to be a lot more of those running around. So I don't know. That's kind of, for me, that's kind of weak. These things have been around for so long. It's not hurting those players. If you've had your epic sword of shadow for years, you've had years to enjoy it. Let the rest of us have it at this point. It's been around for so long. I don't think that's really a valid argument. If there's people, I haven't seen anyone actually complaining about this, saying that, oh, my super rare item is now not rare anymore. I think your reward for getting it a long time ago was to actually have that item for a long time. And if you went for a long time without getting it, well, you're going to get it now. So I don't see why you're complaining. So yeah, let's continue on. So the legendary so what they're doing with this pass is they're making a legendary version of all of these old epic items, not only bringing them up to current standards with the epic versions, but they are also making the legendary versions, and they're also bringing the heroic versions up to current standards, I would assume. Anyways, what they're going to do with the legendary so they're making legendary versions of all the items except the legendary sword of shadows. And this is what they had to say as to their reason. If we were to create a version that kept the large expanded critical profile that sword is known for, it would be incredibly hard to create other comparable legendary weapons that also didn't use that same expanded critical profile. And if we were to make a functional greatsword that used the Sword of Shadow name but didn't have that expanded critical profile, it would feel like a pale imitation of the lower level variants. With that being said, the plan is to create a cosmetic version of the Sword of Shadows featuring brand new art inspired by the current model that can be earned and shown off. We know this solution will not fit all desires, but believe it is necessary to avoid painting our item design into a corner. And yeah, I completely agree with the developers here. I think this is the right decision, not making a legendary Sword of Shadow. The reason, as they've stated here, the Sword of Shadow's main thing has been its critical profile. It's kind of seen as the king of great swords. It's like the best, like one of the best weapons in epics. It's the best weapon in heroics, two-handed weapon, I mean. So if they were to make a legendary version that were to feel like the Sword of Shadows, they would have had to basically invalidate all the other weapons, all the other legendary weapons, because the other legendary weapons, as they explained here, would have to have also a expanded critical profile to be competitive. So they basically had the option of making an overpowered weapon or not making the weapon at all, and they went with the latter, which I think is the right decision here. It would have, they could have, I wouldn't have cared too much if they would have made a legendary Sword of Shadows and made it change the critical profile to make it more of a standard critical profile. But I understand that it wouldn't have, it would have felt a little, would have been a little sour tasting. So I think this is perfectly fine. There will be a cosmetic version. You can already mirror the weapon as well, but in any case, you can use it cosmetic version if you want to use the Sword of Shadow cosmetically as a legendary, but the epic version will still be there and should still be a great item to use. So yeah, good decision, I think, by the devs there. And next question, if we have old epic items, will we need to reobtain them? There is already a Stone of Change recipe that will let you turn any epic SSS item into a new version, so no, just throw it in the Stone of Change. It will fix itself. So you can upgrade your old epic items if you already have them. They said be aware this will effectively delete your item and give you a new one, so take care if you have augments or sentient filigree you'd want to keep. And I don't know if they have a check there. So what I mean is when you throw it, there should be a basically you have to click yes, or are you sure you wish to delete this. They really need to add that in there, some kind of check, so people don't accidentally like burn really valuable like sentient filigree and such. So I don't know if they have that there right now. If they don't, they really need to put an "Are you sure you wish to do this?" Stop block there before letting people destroy this stuff. Because I see a lot of people accidentally burning really rare augments and such if they don't. So hopefully they do. Okay, what about mythic bonuses? Since we aren't dropping these items, we can't rely on our existing mythic tables. So we're probably going to need to get fancy. Current plan, players will be able to turn a large chunk of Threads of Fate into an item. That one combined with an epic or legendary version, upgrade it to mythic, and then mythic +3 or +4. Okay, so they're going to let you upgrade and add mythic bonuses when you... Okay, so that's cool. You can upgrade and add further better versions with higher mythic bonuses. So cool. How does Saltmarsh fit into this? Well, before getting to his response, obviously Saltmarsh will be, as of now, and that will change in the future apparently, but as of now will be the sole way to get the legendary versions by running Saltmarsh. But this is what the developer had to say. Saltmarsh will contain new level 3 heroic items that you will then be able to upgrade into level 20 and then 30 through epic and legendary crafting. Saltmarsh's legendary content will still contain a few standalone level 29 items as well as new augments, but a portion of Saltmarsh will require engagement with the revamped SSS system. Feel free to take a look at the items in this preview in the Saltmarsh itemization post. So yeah, I mean, a little lame that you have to run Saltmarsh to upgrade to a legendary version. Let's continue. Can we walk through an upgrade process just to be sure? So they said, sure. Here's how someone would obtain the copy of the legendary Kundarak Delving Boots. First, they would do the raid, the Vault of Night, and a subsequent raid, the Plane of Night. In the end chest, on any difficulty, there is a chance to obtain a copy of the heroic level Kundarak Delving Boots. From there, they would take the boots, 50 vault keys found within the Vault of Night chest, so that's the pack ingredient, the vault keys, and 5 greater tokens of the 12, and combine them in the altar of epic rituals found in the 12 to obtain the epic Kundarak Delving Boots. With these, they would take their new epic Kundarak Delving Boots, 100 vault keys, 250 threads of fate, 5 star fragments, and combine them in the altar of legendary rituals to obtain the legendary Kundarak Delving Boots. If you had a copy of the current Kundarak Delving Boots or epic Kundarak Delving Boots, you can skip right ahead to whichever part of this process, as the old items from before the revamp will work with the new system. Okay, so that's about it. I guess final thoughts is, when it comes to Scroll Seal Shard, I actually I know a lot of people like to complain about Scroll Seal Shard. I'm not one of those people. I really enjoyed Scroll Seal Shard. I know this is not a popular opinion, but I thought it was a great system. I really enjoyed it back in the day. It was a great system. You know, now currently it's obviously not worth that grind to obtain those items in their current state. But when they get upgraded, obviously it will be worth it. But that doesn't even matter anymore because they're changing the whole system. But I actually enjoyed it. It gave you something to do at CAT back in the day. I think in its time, it was a good system because you need those grinds, you need that rare stuff to go after at in game. So I think at its time it was good. Its problem is over time the loot became outdated. They didn't update it for years and years past. Most of that stuff became obsolete, so it didn't become worth that grind anymore. It became really annoying, especially if you wanted one just item, even though it wasn't very good. you still had to do an absurd amount of, not an absurd amount of grinding, but too much grinding to be worth that, getting that item. But I did enjoy it back in the day. So I wanted to just say that when you finally got that shard or that seal you wanted, it felt very special. However, overall, very, very happy with what they're doing here. Overall, this is definitely a good change. It makes so much of that loot more usable again. I mean, not only that it's being upgraded, but you can actually get it in a reasonable amount of time. This not being in-game gear anymore as it was in the past, I think it makes sense to do what they're doing and making it easier to get, specifically when it comes to the epic versions. Now, the legendary versions, I assume it won't be with this gear. It's not going to be like best in game for too long because the level cap increase is coming. So we're probably going to have better gear whenever that comes. That'll be better than this stuff. So a lot of this stuff is going to be leveling gear now. So it makes sense for it to not be like a in-game grind kind of system like we had when cap was 20 and we have scroll seal shards. So, you know, overall, I like that it's making this stuff more accessible and it fits more in the timeline. I'm glad so much of this stuff is now, even though it's going to make, as I mentioned last video, Gear Tetris probably a nightmare. At least it makes this, a lot of this loot usable again. And I hope a lot of the loot when it comes to the epic stuff is going to be very usable as leveling gear again, and maybe the heroic items too. Overall, good changes. I think the devs are doing really good work here. The only lame part is I think it is a little lame to keep the legendary versions locked out for anyone who doesn't have or isn't planning to buy the Saltmarsh mini expansion. So that's a little lame. But overall, good changes, and I'm looking forward to crafting a few things, especially the epic things. If nothing else, even if you don't get Salt Marsh, you will still have access to all the epic stuff. So I'm looking forward to crafting at least the epic stuff when this all hits. So yeah, overall, good work. But guys, let me know what you think about these changes. Would be interested in hearing what you think. That's going to be it for this video. I'll see y'all next time. Have a good one. Take care.